Welcome, beautiful friends, to our One Who Wakes dialogue on another Who Awoke. I have to tell you that this is the dialogue that I've waited for most. My own awakening happened 2.5, almost 3 years ago now, I think. And in the 1.5 years that Yeshua and I spent together after the awakening, preparing my soul to extend love through One Who Wakes in this way, the purpose wasn't to extend the teachings as much as it was to awaken ourself. So One Who Wakes is not about John Mark. It's about us. It's about our one self reawakening to the truth of our one love. And it is incredibly joyful tonight that we're going to be able to hear from Marian, who awoke sitting right there during the silence and stillness dialogue. There's such great joy in awakening. And I never could have awakened had I not had my own internal guide, Yeshua. And I know many of you are getting much more deeply in tune to your own internal guide. But we were all helping each other with this. There's only one of us. And we're just reawakening to our one self. The second coming of Christ is now. It's not later. The age has turned and all that we've been waiting for is now. So it's with great, great joy that I introduce you to Christ. You know, this is the biggest coming out that we're going to have on the planet, is when we all come out of the closet and admit, yes, I am the Christ. And I have been in the closet much too long. And I feared shame, and I feared persecution, and I feared loss. But no longer will we hide our divinity behind the closed door of our mind. So thank you for coming tonight to be the light, my beautiful friend.
Wow. Ooh, this just feels so good to see all those smiling faces up there. Wow. Okay. I want to start with a song, but before we do, I'd like each of us to think who it is that we would like to invite in. Someone perhaps who's disembodied, that we would like to have join us this evening, even though we are already filled. Let's fill it with as many angelic beings. Personally, I'd like to invite Jesus and all of those who are working with us, what Jesus calls the host of beings. I'd like to invite some special friends who have made their transition. John, Sherwood, back there we have Ferd. Let's invite them all to come and join us tonight. And I'm also going to invite my special friend whose name is Barb, but as of this evening, she will only be referred to as B, okay? All right. So the song has a chorus. We are the light, we are the love, we are the peace. I'd like us to sing the chorus, or the what is it called? The chorus? Okay. And we have a voice in the front who you might hear all the way in the back. And if you feel like getting up and moving with the song, don't hesitate to do that either, okay? So here it is.
The journey to be
We're going to start with a lesson from the Course in Miracles, lesson 127. And we're going to just emphasize a couple lines of this. Can you hear me okay? Okay. No course whose purpose is to teach you to remember what you really are could fail to emphasize that there can never be a difference in what you really are and what love is. Love's meaning is your own and shared by God Himself. For what you are is what He is. There is no love but His, and what He is everything there is. There is no limit placed upon Himself, and so are you unlimited as well. There can never be a difference in what you really are and what love is. Once more, there can never be a difference in what you really are and what love is. For what you are is what He is. So, we're starting with a big heart. And I'm going to ask you to tell me what you think that heart represents. Anyone? Me? Us? Anyone?
The many pieces that make a whole.
Many pieces that make a whole. Keep going.
We're all one piece of the big heart.
One piece of the big heart.
What a map of the world should look like.
What was just said is what the map of the world should look like, and I'm repeating because we don't have mics out there for being online. I have some more words. How about this is love? Eternity? Is that a good word for it? How about the kingdom of God? Do you like that one? Maybe? Reality? Completeness? Wholeness? Innocence. Anything else coming? Creativity. Has
I see a big puzzle.
a big puzzle.
It's a mystery.
A mystery? Okay.
Freedom.
I'm sorry. Freedom. Freedom. Wonderful. I'm going to add allness. Allness. We haven't said truth.
Perfection.
Perfection. Okay. Now, for a minute, would you play with me? Let's play pretend. And
We're good at that.
we're good at that. Yes, we are. We are good at pretending. So, pretend for a moment. And some of you, this might sound a little bit familiar if you're familiar with a book called The Sun and the Soul. Okay? But for a minute, pretend that one of those pieces of the puzzle has decided that, well, you know, I know that that's who I am. I know that. But I wonder what it would be like to just pretend or to play or to dream what it would be like if that wasn't who I was. What would it be like if I thought, Well, how could I do that? Because I'm already that. So all these other little souls around me, all the little souls around me go, well, I could help you to have that experience. Why don't we pretend together we will all have this dream? And I said, oh my goodness, you mean you'd play my mother? Yeah, I'd play your mother. Well, why would you want to do that? Because, I'm not going to remember that that's who I am. And someone else came up and said, I'll play your brother. And someone said, I'll play your sister and my dad and lots of friends. Lots said that they'd just be friends. And one of them particularly said, now don't forget who you are. And I said, oh, I won't forget. And then the other one said, but you might. And you know that if you forget who you are, I probably am going to forget who I am too as we're playing this dream. Oh, dear. So there was lots of talk, and finally all these little souls decided that yes, they would go ahead and have this dream together. And this one little soul, her name was Marian, this one little soul said, well, the one thing that I'd like to experience if I played this and have this empty, that if I move out of what I remember I am, I'd like to pretend and play and see what it would be like not to be enough. That would be the piece that would be what I'd like to play out. And I'd like to see what it would be like. So help me, if this little piece called Marion said, she wants to play, she wants to dream, what it would be like not to be enough. What do you think might be part of her experience? Criticism. Loneliness. Judgment. Failure. Sadness.
Unloved.
I'm sorry? Shame. Guilt. Driven. Does that kind of give you an idea of what this little soul called Marian wanted to be? Wanted to feel what that would be like. And so this little soul took on an identity. And of course, in this identity took place in a world that was created for this dream. I mean, it's a very special world and this dream. And in this identity, she thought that's who she was. And so, who do you think she thought she was? What kind of things came in that she imagined that that's who she was? That was her identity. What might that be? Maybe her beliefs? Her personality? Oh, what she does. That was important.
Her wardrobe.
Oh, and her wardrobe. Mm-hmm. What else might have been part of her identity? Her body image. Oh, yeah. Her emotions. Who she knew. Hopefully important people. Oh, family. Oh, yeah. Yeah, her family. Her memories.
Lots of actions to prove that she was enough.
Lots of actions to prove she was enough.
Perfectionism.
Oh, this little soul named Marion had that one down. Can any of you identify with any of these this piece of this? Oh, okay. One thing we haven't mentioned is that this little soul also forgot that she was only love and experienced a lot of fear. In fact, she came in an interesting way. The story goes that this little soul named Marian came in and was named because her father and mother were visiting some friends who lived in Marion, North Carolina. And the story goes, I was the youngest of 5, and the story goes that my dad said to my mother, Marian. Now that would be a nice name for the baby, and of course in those days we don't know if it's going to be a girl or a boy, right? So the little soul named Marian. Incidentally, the home that my mother and father were visiting, in that home, it was visiting another Lutheran minister and family, my dad being a Lutheran minister. Years later, now fast forward 40-some years, that, and I love how all of this works. I just love how all of this works. Years later, that particular home became the counseling center that my husband, now husband, and I started a counseling center in that very home, and my husband was the minister of the little church next to it. So isn't it fun to just see how all of this always goes together? And it's endless to watch. In my growing up years, my dad was at war, okay? He was away at war. And years later, my brothers and sisters and I were having this conversation like, why is it that we had this closeness? What is it that brought this together? And the realization was, oh, for heaven's sakes, Dad was away. Mother, being emotionally needy, we bonded. We needed each other. That followed through all the way in our growing up years, to the point that when it was time for me to be dating, my brother says to me, I have this chick that I have my eye on, and I'd like to take her out. Can I fix you up with my buddy who's, in the seminary? My brother at the time was in the Lutheran seminary, and you're going to hear lots of the male seminary Lutheran in my family. So I mentioned this because that blind date became my husband. So my brother fixed me up. And through the years, I can so see how I had those male authority figures through the church, through all of my early years, it was the authorities were, of course, male ministers, and I think that maybe some of us even grew up thinking that there was a male God. Perhaps. Okay. I also want to mention that the heart puzzle to me also represents all the different pieces, all the different experiences, all my relationships, all my thoughts, all my beliefs. So all of those are parts of this puzzle for me. And I have a note here that I don't know what it means. So I'm going to read to you from something that I wrote maybe 10 years ago. I was taking part in something, and we were to write a spiritual biography, autobiography. So I ran across this the other day, and it was like, yep, that's says a whole bunch. The questions came over and over. Who was I? Why can I not be part of the picture? I was so frustrated. I can remember saying, why can't I be like my sister Carol? Carol loved being the minister's wife. Why could I not be a Carol? Why couldn't I just be content and peaceful? And as quickly as I would search, I would retreat back to the safety of my own self-condemnation. To the church, to my husband. My marriage vow was, till death do us part. Once bonded, always bound. To be otherwise for me was not a choice. My life was filled with children. At that, I have 3 daughters. It was filled with routines, expectations, and I returned to school to get a MSW, Master's in Social Work. The empty place and the space and the pursuit of my heart continued. I felt the longing of something that was more than in my experience. Through the years, we moved quite a bit, number of churches. So we moved again to Asheville, North Carolina. At this point, my husband, who I've said, husband, was changing careers because it was his choice as well at that point to no longer be a minister. My husband's career changed, and so did my lifestyle. I was comfortable and secure in my status. I had arrived. I had a private office. I was a therapist. I listened to every gamut of the human longings, to society's needs, to problem after problem. I did not know it was a safe place of hibernation, or that as I sat up in my well-designed chairs, in my professionally decorated office, that I was caught up in the prestige of beautiful surroundings. With most clients who were able to pay well, checks signed to me were an answer to my ego. I had never personally been a part of anything cruel or hard emotionally or physically, though I had certainly heard every story imaginable of child abuse, of domestic violence, racking bodies and spirits, addictions destroying families, hearts broken by relationships, of twisted minds I could not change. I heard it all. And so it continued. Secure in my setting, I looked at my bookshelves. Sound familiar, anybody? They were heaped with the wisdom written by every expert who had traveled before me. There was a book for every psychological path and every spiritual endeavor. Books upon books upon books. Searching, I acknowledged them all. On some level, I began to understand the course of love without fear. I love to just see how all of this unfolds so perfectly because the longing is within us to remember who we are. We cannot not have that longing. And at that point in time, I became a student in the Course in Miracles. Listen to this. I enjoyed going home to our plush condo following a workshop. I had conducted it. In my new life, I sipped my Manhattan and was enlightened. My friendships as well were in the right category for my lifestyle. I'm sure they were important people. There were many symbolic needs to my feeling important. Remember what it was that the little soul wanted to experience? Okay. And there was the right home, the community, the right social position, and the career. And then everything came down on me at once. I was asked the other night, did I ever have that place in my life when things shifted or things changed? I'm going to share this piece as well. To say that this was the most difficult time of my life, my brink, would be an understatement. After a separation for a number of months and a reconciliation period, an interlude of togetherness, the time came for a final parting of the two of us, my husband and I. Leaving for a period of time had been one thing, but divorce was another. Keep in mind, folks, I came from a family where everyone was part of, the Lutheran Church, part of, there had never been a divorce in my family. I felt I was facing the ultimate separation from the father of my children, my longtime companion of 30 years, who had sheltered me, and the grandfather of our grandchildren already. Suddenly, a 6-month separation was to grow into a lifetime without him. I was not ready. It was exhilarating. It was devastating. I loved the freshness of the new and longed for the familiar of the old. I was caught in the past. I had no idea what the future was going to bring. And of course, remembering what the little soul wanted to experience Could I do that without guilt? No. No. Did I do the right thing? Did we do the right thing? I asked again and again. I was complete one moment, I was obsolete the next. The pain and the hurt of my children, my family, and friends was unbearable. Their pain became mine. My journals were filled with my confusion and aloneness. I felt I had gained everything and yet had lost it all. Divorced, driven, and down. I cried heartfelt tears. Yes, I look back and I wonder how I survived my brink. I know. I finally said, God, I give up. I surrender. I accept what I am about, what I am to learn. Little did I know what that was to be. So, of course, in the freedom, there's going to be some new relationships, right? It's got to be. Got to put that in there. But then I met someone who I'm now going to call B. And this person gave me an experience that I never dreamt that I was going to have, that one could have. And the experience that I had was that I was able to witness her being, her having a near-death experience and being present for that near-death experience. So I'd like to read to you a poem. There was 2 of us present this particular night, and I'd like to read a poem that the other friend wrote, and it went like this. How many of us know beyond any shadow of doubt that God is truth, that love is all, that miracles are natural? You, my friend, speaking B, have made the journey without distance, and we were gifted with witnessing as God led you from death back to life. You've had cancer almost 10 years. Recently, you were diagnosed with AIDS. And then you had at least 5 strokes in 4 days. As if that weren't enough, on the eve of your 44th birthday, you were struck by a series of violent seizures, causing you to writhe in agony, foam at the mouth, leaving you totally paralyzed, without speech, and blinded. I opened the book, Who Dies? I read the passage you asked me to read. You asked me to read it at the end, and I waited for the moment to arrive. No more pain, I angrily pleaded with God. And the other friend said, it's all right, just let go. We did not know where this would take you, but the agony finally ended. Total peace radiated from your face, the love light shining so beautifully in your eyes. and you were still. Thank God, I thought, a peaceful end. But wait, you were looking at something we couldn't see. You smiled and blew it a kiss. As we watched in amazement the twisted, clenched fists of your paralyzed hands, relaxed and unfolded like a rose. As soft music played, your hands began a graceful dance, each movement precise, rhythmic, and harmonious. Each gesture repeated bilaterally. And then your arms lifted with your palms opened upward, preceding a miracle, the laying on of your own hands. You began with your knees, hands placed left upon right, then right upon left. Then your folded hands lifted in prayer to your forehead. These steps were repeated on all parts of your body. I knew you'd been healed when at last you returned. And you said to us, I've been with God. I have seen the face of God. And believe me, ladies, you have nothing to fear. Then you said, I smell coffee. Could I have a cup? We laughed and drank coffee, and the three of us took a walk of joy around the neighborhood. When morning's light arrived, we decorated your living room with streamers and balloons. And to me, it seemed an eternity had passed from when I had believed this birthday was sure to be your last. She had a choice of coming back, and here's what she agreed to when she was in the light. She says that I would agree to return as a new person. I would see through different eyes. I would allow my hands to be changed. I would not cease allowing the godlike to share and serve through my being. I was always to remember and share the source, the heart, and not the miracle of self, her miracle. She says, I was told to take my time in choosing, for in the God-light, as in actuality, time is totally illusion. My thoughts came gently. For those on the edge could know this joy and know without a doubt that it was theirs already, had been and would be. What a gift that spiritual God-light within the physical part of me would have to share. And thus, her choice was made. I'm very much feeling that presence right now, which is very joyful. So, now I'm going to read you yet a letter that I wrote to my brothers and sisters after a number of months. I really don't know the time frame at this point, okay? So, but it goes like this. Dear Sibs, a family reunion is coming up, and some things that I want to share with you. And I said, if they wanted to share it with their children, meaning my nieces and nephews, that would be fine too. It's important that you know that I'm still the same sister as I've always been. And yet, from another perspective, I'm not the same sister at all. My life has changed, and yet has not changed. Let me explain. As you know, I've chosen as my life partner a female, which was very interesting because I was not a lesbian. I am not a lesbian, and I chose as my life partner a female. Does that make sense? John Mark is up here going, and so I continue to share how I'm feeling and my gratitude for this. And then I go into when this is smaller print. I'm going to put on my glasses. When I first met, when Bea and I first met, she was ill, dying from cancer, which she had battled for 9 years. On July 10th, 1991, her 44th birthday, I witnessed a miracle of her being brought back literally from death to totally being reborn to wholeness. There is absolutely no way I could not be joy-filled having witnessed this miracle and being chosen to be a part of it. And then following her transformation was a 14-day period of directed writing, which is an account of the experience in detail, which, is for another time. During the time she was in the light before God, she was told that if she should choose to come back, that she would be spoken to by a voice who would guide and direct the work. And then I continue from that day forth. There has been much guidance and direction from the voice of God, the source. At first, this came in the form of letters of assurance, letters which assured us of our oneness and directives as to our work. Hundreds of letters have come. That was one piece of the letters, one piece of the work, as far as the letters. But I'd like to give you a sampling now of some lines that came from these letters. And can you see that? Not very well? Okay, I can read them. The first one says, treasure your difficulties only for the light which they shed for you. Okay? This next one was specifically said to me, and it went, climb out of your head, crawl into your heart. Let's take a second, too. What does it mean? Climb out of your head, crawl into your heart. Can we go back to that original picture of the heart? What was that heart? What did that heart contain? Everything. The all. The completeness, the wholeness, the no fear, the no doubt, the no ego. Thank you. Ego. No guilt, no shame. Okay? So, Marian, climb out of your head, crawl into your heart. Okay, the next one. Treasure your peace. It is like the mountain spring, refreshing the soul. It is like a snowflake, enlightening the spirit. It is like the autumn breeze, calming the heart. Isn't that beautiful? Can you hear me okay? All right. So let's do another page just to give you a sampling of the letters. None of us can identify with this one. Your mind wants to rush while your heart stands still and listens. Please, my sacred one, let it hear. Your mind wants to rush while your heart stands still. And the next one, you need not remove yourself from darkness. Just simply raise the wick of love in your lantern. Don't you love that one? You need not remove yourself from darkness. Just simply raise the wick of love in your lantern. I'm going to give you a couple more. I love these lines. Needless to say, we could spend the rest of the evening and another evening just looking at lines of the cards. I'm not going to do that to you, okay? But I do want to do a few more. Heart will hear, mind will not. Heart is full of peace and contentment. To the mind, all is frightening. Here's another one directed to me, I see. Get out of your head, Em. Your heart is free. You hold to past things. You are in the now. You are in the process of exchange of mind for heart. Facing your oneness with me involves, and the source speaking, okay? Facing your oneness with me involves giving into, out of, and through only my heart, which beats as yours. Okay? I found something that I just love this one, so it was like, I've got to share this. This is, the letters were just, as I said, part of the work. Sometimes we would just sit and I remember at one point going, I'm not sure I want to continue all the time being God's secretary, because this voice would be coming through and I'm taking, the notes down. It says, none of us are enlightened masters, and yet all of us are enlightened masters. But what is enlightenment? It is indeed only a thought. If you know you are enlightened, then you probably are not. If you accept that you are enlightened, then most probably you are. If it should need to be defined, and it is indeed a thought, then it is God's thought for the butterfly to be enlightened, to know how to follow the stream, to know how to get home. It is the lightning bug's enlightenment, to know when to chemically transform the backside of the body into light. It is God's gift to the cat to know when to purr and the dog to know when to wag its tail. So we accept that God has enlightened us also. And if we accept that that is so, we can be done with it and move forward. Okay. So, I'm going to continue just a little bit with this story concerning B. And she was very funny, and she made me laugh a lot. Well, one day she was apparently writing about something that had taken place. And it goes like this. Before 1991, I would not say that I was a non-believer in angels. I had no interest in them, and therefore it was of no relevance to me as to their existence. The Bible made reference to them, and some long ago artist got off on painting them. That was all I knew. Following a very long illness, I suffered several major strokes, and in July of 1991, as you've already heard, I found myself on the other side, in the light. I returned to the earthly plane well and strong. All of the above is another story entirely, and mentioned here only as a point of reference. My experience in the light was long and defined, and I returned having been given several tasks. None of these tasks, I thought, had to do with angels, nor did I see any angels while I was in the light during my transformation. No angels there. No angels here. No thought of angels anywhere. I began my spiritual work. The work was extremely intense, and so by Christmas 1991, I was somewhat exhausted. Resting one evening after a long day's work, baby angels flew into my bedroom, led by a little baby angel who, in a humorous way, seemed to be in charge. They positioned themselves on the mantel above the fireplace and other high places in the room. And so began my first mind dilemma with angels and my first heart opening. What to do? Should I call to my housemate? Now, she's a psychological professional, by the way. Should I watch and listen as the angel choir, sang Christmas carols? Should I chalk this up to fatigue? Was I perhaps slipping off the tomato truck? Finally, I decided this was really too good for anyone to miss. Oh, yes. I called to my friend, who too was involved in the spiritual work, already mentioned. Okay. Don't you see them? I asked. Can't you hear them? They're so funny and cute and... See what? She questioned. Baby angels, 17 of them, and they're singing, "Oh Holy Night." My friend did not commit me, and after that night, the little baby girl angel, the choir director, returned many, many times. She talked to me, and eventually threw me to my friend. She told me many startling facts. Her name was Grace. She was the product of an adulterous out-of-wedlock experience and explained some miraculous truths about angels. She always seemed to come when we needed her the most. She introduced us to several other baby angels who, too, became our friends, but never as close as Grace. She called my friend beautiful woman and referred to me by my initials. That should speak for itself. One night she came quite suddenly and with enthusiasm said she was to write a book. And it was to be published. That's just great, I thought. My friend has written a book. I'm writing a book. And now Grace is going to write a book, and we're to get hers published, upstaged by an angel. Over the years that Grace had visited, a dear artist friend had also come to know Grace, and she happens to be here tonight. It was a natural choice for Grace to want her to do the art for her book. As with Grace's words, every drawing was directed, corrected, or rejected if it was not what she wanted. And so we have notes from baby angel Grace. I'm going to just read this last part that Bea wrote. Do I believe in angels? And she was saying, Grace sits on her lap and she, touches her wings and the whole thing. And then she says, do I believe in angels? Well, several days ago, Grace was teasing me by bopping me on the head. And in my frustration told her, leave me alone and to go somewhere else. It was the first time I had spoken to her in that way. And as I saw a very disappointed little angel fly away, I felt very sad. I was afraid she would not come again. The next day, she returned, explaining that even though she didn't want to say she was sorry, she had been told, sometimes, Grace, you just have to eat feathers. So, notes from baby angel Grace. This book was written by a real baby angel to all women everywhere who have suffered the loss of a child or a baby, born in, or unborn, by illness, tragedy, miscarriage, or abortion. Baby angel Grace speaks only truth from her heart to all hearts. Her words can bring everlasting peace. I want to show just a couple pictures from the book. It's really hard to see tonight, isn't it? You're going to
I
read.
always have loved this book.
Just a page or two is fine, yeah.
What do you want, those?
That would be good. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful woman, tell them that even though there is death in an abortion, miscarriage, accident, or sudden loss, that I am here and that we are free. We are baby angels. Baby angels are free of care. Unlike what many people would say, we are not carefree. We are free of care. We know and understand all mothers' despair and emptiness. We fill them with our presence. Only yesterday, I ate a peanut butter sandwich and got it all over myself. A newcomer in this realm reached out to me in hunger. I fed her a banana with cream cheese. She told me no one wanted her. I said, but you were wanted by heaven, where we are, this place. I was excited. She wasn't.
Okay. Thank
It
you.
goes on and on.
I wanted to mention that there are several copies out there. If anybody wants to take one, please be my guest and share it if that is your preference as well. I did want to share with you, there was a review that someone did on Notes from Baby Angel Grace when it first came out. And it goes like this. Therapist, social worker, and grandmother Marion Behnke has stepped out on a shaky limb in her writing and publishing of Notes from Baby Angel Grace, having had a distinguished career in caring, ministry, leading workshops, and leading people to a sense of their sanity and their connection to God. She now risks having all those around her think she has lost her mind. After reading, Grace told me how she taught other new angels how to fly. There will doubtless be those who wonder if Ms. Behnke and her talented illustrator are bonkers or under the influence of someone who is. So,
Who's the talented illustrator?
it's the beautiful woman sitting next to you.
Right here?
Yes, yes. Do you want to comment on how it was that Grace told you how to do those illustrations? This is Laura Lanier, better known as Bitsy by me.
She was very specific, first of all, and I am also one of those perfectionists. So when I make a sketch of something, it's usually very painstaking and exacting. But Grace informed me that I was only to use a pen, and I could only do it once. And she gave very specific directions about what each pose was to be. And I got one chance at it, which was extremely difficult for me and expanded me beyond my comfort zone hugely, because letting go of just drawing it once and not being able to make it exactly what I thought it should be was a very big challenge. But I was reminded more than once by the source that I was the artist, and it was perfect, no matter what I did.
You want to comment on her voice when it came through, B?
It was childlike. I'm having a little trouble remembering exactly, but I remember it being childlike and fun, and I could just see this mischievous little kid she described herself. She wore a little gown that looked like a sack.
Garbage bag, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
a little garbage bag. That's kind of what she said. It was sort of gathered at the neck. The illustrations in the book don't have a face, and I don't remember exactly how that developed, except that we realized that everybody who saw this book had to put in the face. It was their own little angel. And it was very powerful to have to do that for me as well. So she was, it was an amazing thing. I mean, this opened me in ways that I've never been opened. So just having this experience of her and the truth that I kept hearing was amazing. And we have heard so many comments from people who've had such healing as a result of this little book. My husband is a psychologist, and we used to put these books in his office, and they always got stolen. So we always knew that they were going to somebody who needed them. So the book she just was it was an amazing experience.
Thank you. Thank you. This work went on for 7 years. And now I'm going to read yet again a little piece here. Though preparation was being given, I was not prepared emotionally or spiritually for the sudden loss of B after 7 years. And the November prior to the brain aneurysm in March, November, brain aneurysm in March, yet another letter to me from the source had come through. It goes like this: you and B are on the verge of a wonderful new turning point. Be prepared. Reach into your being now and find all of your strengths. They are not of the mind. They are of the heart. They are your heart's song. Sing those strengths in your mind's darkest moments. Know that I am the song. You are the voice for my song. Behold the Ides of March and await the beautiful change. B's brain aneurysm and stroke on March 15th resulted in her being diapered, debilitated, and brain damaged. And she lived for 7 more years in that state. Moving forward. That was 7 years ago when she made her transition. During these last 7 years, I have over and over and over said, okay, what am... John Mark just put his nose on for me. What am I to do with this work? And I can remember points where I'm going, this was supposed to be our work. What am I supposed to do with this now? Here I am, 7 years later. Together 7 years, brain damage, debilitated 7 years, and now 7 years later, here I am sitting. So, I cannot not look at all the pieces of the puzzle and go, wow. The choice that I made on the other side before I ever got into this body was, what would it be like to be separate from God? What would it be like to feel that? What would it be like? And in the midst of that separation, in the midst of that time when I didn't remember totally who I was. Look how the pieces came in. Look how the pieces kept falling together. Falling together. I read from J.M.'s Way of Mastery the other day, and it says, you will carry with you a deep sense of gratitude for everything this physical dimension has brought you. No resentment, no longing, no anger or remorse for anything. All of the experience will have become acceptable. It was through such experience that you were finally driven to want only truth. Now, I'm sitting where Paula is sitting one night, and of course, I had already been so knowing that as joyful as I was, as peaceful as I was, I knew there was more. Because there was still that longing. There was still that longing. So I'm sitting over there, and I remember I had never taken notes. John Mark, I had never taken a note while I was, in these presentations that John Mark makes until that night. Little copies, okay? And I write, the silence will find you. The silence encompasses all. Remember the heart? The silence encompasses all. Follow it never fails. Okay, I'm just okay. I'm just I'm writing these notes down. Yeah, stillness. Stillness is our natural state. It allows all things. And I remember, he's showing the screen, and no matter what we put up on the screen, that's all changeable. That's the movement. Those are the thoughts. That's the head stuff. That's the beliefs and so on. But you take all that stuff off the screen, and what do we have left? We have the stillness. And I'm going, oh, okay. And I remember hearing him say, you find the stillness in the movement. And I'm going, well, that's a good thing, because boy, my head is sure going with a lot of thoughts right now. I wonder if I'm sitting the way I'm supposed to sit for this meditation, and do I have my feet the way I'm supposed to have my feet? And then all these thoughts are coming like, well, someday, this would be nice. And yet John Mark had been saying, there is no time. It's now. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? And another one, you're free to identify with the source. Remember the puzzle piece. Remember the puzzle piece. The separate one who has forgotten totally who we are, who she is. There's nothing to judge in the stillness, and I was so glad to hear that. Like it had heard it for the first time, for goodness sakes. Had we not heard, you don't judge, But there's no judgment in the stillness, and it was like all these thoughts. And it was like, I can have all those thoughts. And he did a little meditation, a little quiet moment. And all of a sudden, in that moment, it was like everything. It was knowing without question that heart cannot be anything but who we are, who I was. But it wasn't in this moment. It's very hard to describe, because I wrote some words down that it was like, was I pulled? Was I carried into this space, this spaciousness? Was I, did I just dissolve into this? It felt like I was sinking into and moving into. It's very hard to explain. But it was like, for that moment, I was out of the drama, I was out of the dream. Out of the dream. The dream is irrelevant. That's the dream. And in that spaciousness, in this openness, in this oneness, it was like, oh my gosh, I cannot be anything. I cannot be anything but this love. You can't be any, that's all there is. That's all there is. In that moment, it's not like anything I could have imagined, this experience. But I knew, you know, we hear so often, the Father and I are one. The Father and I are one. You know, and I knew what that meant in an instant. The Father and I are one. The Source and I are one. That completeness. Now, keep in mind, in my dream, when I dreamt that I was separate, what did I want to experience? Not being good enough. And in that instant, it was like, oh, for heaven's sakes, how could we even begin to think that we couldn't be enough? How could I? It's impossible. I cannot not be enough. That's all there is. And so then it was this awareness of there's no guilt, no judgment, no ego. There's no me. There's no. It's a different sense of self. I can't. This is hard to put into words. But there was no self, and yet I'm still in a body for now. And I'm really glad to be in this body, by the way, because many of you know that, you know, I had that car accident and was supposed to do this talk in January. And since that point in time, I read this book, Dying to Be Me, Anita Moorjani. Yeah. And I realized I'm reading this book and I go, oh my gosh, she had her near-death experience and then, you know, awakening in the light and came back. And it was like, oh my gosh, I was gifted just the opposite. I had my awakening and then I got to have my near-death experience. Duality, good, bad, right, wrong, doesn't exist. In that instant, it was like, can't be. There isn't such a thing except in the dream. We can make it all up. There is no such thing. So we call this, you know, the dream. And it was like, oh my gosh. That's what it's all about. I came home that night and I opened up the Course in Miracles and it was like, oh my gosh, that's what this has been saying. How could I have missed that this is what the Course is saying? It's simply saying, Marian, wake up from the dream. And I go, yeah, okay. Wake up from the dream. You think that's who you are. And then it's like, oh my gosh. You know, it really is a dream. And in that awakening, in that time, and there is no time, that's part of this too. There can't be any time, there is only now. It was like, where was I going? I just lost my train of thought in the time. It's now. I'm sorry?
There's no such concept or thing as time.
Thank you. There's no such thing as time. And yet at the same time, there's no separateness except in this dream. And in Anita's book, and also who's the fellow that was here the other day with the neurosurgeon who had his near-death experience, Eben Alexander. He also makes a point of saying that we don't have to die, folks, you know, like Eben did, like Anita did, to have this experience. It's like, Yeah, well, that's what John Mark's been saying. Yeah, okay, I got that. So, where does that take us now? I wanted to see, I know what I wanted to say. This Father and I are one thing. The thing that I remember feeling when I got home, it was like, oh my gosh, that's what that prodigal son story's about. Oh my gosh, that's what it is. Welcome home. Welcome home, back to the wholeness, back to the completeness, back to the love. That's all it is. That's all it could be. So I did some writing, of course, and it was like pages when I got, I think it was the next morning, but just a couple of the things that came as it was this, I'm still was sitting in the state of what was it that I experienced. And it was one of the things I wrote, I know the kingdom of God is within. Now, have we heard that before? Was I writing anything new? Yes, I was writing something new. Yeah. And then I write, I am the kingdom. That was new. I am complete. Now keep in mind this little puzzle piece that had the dream of not enough. I am nothing. And yet I am everything. That was the experience. I can't explain it. Nothing, and I was everything. I am dreaming a dream of separation, or I am not dreaming a dream of separation anymore. And I saw that in that moment, it was like, we hear, let go of the thoughts, just let go of the thoughts. They're meaningless. It's true. It's true. Totally meaningless. They're just thoughts. And again, we hear that in the Course in Miracles, and it feels so silly to be reading this because it sounds like the Course in Miracles, or, The Way of Mastery, or whatever book we want to be speaking of in terms of what Jeshua has given us. But I write, I know that this spaciousness is all encompassing. It was like, oh my gosh, it's everything. Yeah. It's everything. It's everyone. I know there's no me. So I need do nothing. There's no me. So why would, what? It's a different sense of self. I can't explain it, but there's no self. Separate. And this whole idea, when I was sitting there, I could see the thoughts coming. And then, in the silence and in the stillness, it was just, okay. I see that I cannot be other than who I am. Does that sound familiar? Doesn't it sound like yeah? Except, yeah. I see my mind thoughts are just the illusion of appearing real, but they can't be. I cannot be anything but this allness. And neither can anyone else. My story. I spent quite a bit of time tonight on my story. My story means nothing and certainly in the dream of not being enough. I see the foolishness of a self hanging out there in the story. Do you see where I'm going? It's like, ah. The self hanging out there, longing to wake up to itself and feeling unworthy. That was prior to. I see there's only the unity. There is no one to be seeking. What's that saying about the seeking?
The seeker's the sought.
Yeah, the seeker is the sought. Or, what am I seeking for if I'm already it? Does that make any sense? Can't? Okay. And then judgment, right? Why would I judge a dream? So, of course, anyone in the dream, we know it's just a dream now, so there couldn't be any judgment. Doesn't matter. Okay. 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 Here's a piece that I've marked, so I must want to share that with you. That was the whole prodigal son thing, and it's like, okay, the prodigal soul is home, and it's as though in that story, the father, okay, and for me it was, let me give you your full inheritance. Let me give you riches that you have not imagined. Let me give you a self that is not of your understanding. Let me give you peace that transcends thought. Let me give you the joy of being, capital B, that is not dependent on anything or anyone, no person, place, or thing. Let me welcome you home. Let me give you all that your mind, thoughts, that you thought you were lacking. There's no lack. There's no lack. Let me give you the comfort of no longing, no wanting, no trying, no lacking. Let me give you all that is. You now hear only the voice of love. You now hear only the voice of love. I am the amness. I do see the total picture of love. Love is all there is. All. That's all. Thank you. I'd like to just remind you that you have the words for this song, and because it's lengthy, you might enjoy reading it along or not. This is my dear friend Ruth Johnson, who has agreed to grace us with this closing song.
And this is Richard Schulman's piece. I think Richard comes here sometimes.
Thank you. Oh, I'm doing that. Sorry. I thought I turned it off.
Lightning. to be present here, no matter how dark life seems around me now. I'm choosing to face the fear I believed in till now. There's a plan, there is a dream, there is a truth waiting to be seen. Let the promise of ages come forth. Hear the call of the ancient song, speaking of visions we've held so long, of peace on earth and a way to be that honors the way of the heart. In the midst of the fear, in the midst of the pain, I will hold fast, love will remain. Love lives in you, love lives in me, showing the way for us all to be free. a new way to be. Each choice a new opportunity to let go of what seems to be and remember the love that we are. Remember the love that we are. Remember love.
So Marion's on Yeshua's play roll now. It's not a payroll, it's a play roll. So I look forward to seeing where you and Barb's work continues to go. Thank you. We all know all we ever gonna need to know about the theology of awakening. If you know the phrase, I and the Father are one, that's really all you need to know. Our minds are so damn convinced that's not enough that we have to get thick book after thick book after thick book after thick book to tell us the truth that is so simple our mind really can't understand it. The last trick that we overcome, and it's one I was able to help Marion recognize as she walked towards the eye of the needle, is that our intellectual understanding is the truth. We mistake the understanding of the concepts and the mind's acquisition of knowledge within the mind, and we mistake that for the truth. You will not find truth in thought. You will not find it in a concept or a belief, no matter how sacred or how holy you make that belief. The truth is beyond the mind. The truth is beyond belief. The truth, as you just said, it's beyond belief. But you can recognize that in life. That's when life really begins, because it's the death of the dreaming me. And when that disappears, you won't experience this world ever again as a place of fear. It's not possible anymore. Are there any questions? Marion's happy to take questions because I'm not answering your questions for you tonight. Anyone? Okay. Can you turn your...
Thank you, Marian. My question is,
Sorry.
the two books you referred to, your book and Barb's book, are they published or are they
No, they
available?
are not.
They're not. They're not available.
No,
Okay. Thank you.
yet.
Not yet.
Marion and I both heard Yeshua at the same time saying, not yet. I suspect that's coming. Baby Angel Grace, however, is. It's available on Amazon. And if you do some search on the internet, there's some families out there who've posted some miraculous healing, from that work. Anyone else? You are the second coming. Look no further than the reflection in the mirror. Because behind all that assumption of the body image that's in the mirror, Christ is looking right at itself. Right at itself. And like Marion said, the real miracle is, how did we pull off this level of self-deception? That's really the mystery of the whole thing. How did we use our divinity to deceive ourselves so completely? Whew. Freedom. Yeah, that was an expression of our freedom. It's really ironic that the dream of separation is the proof of our divinity and the proof of that freedom as we experience it in the dream of separation. It's mind-boggling. But it's amazing how much clarity can come in an instant. When you step out of time and you reconnect with your eternal being, whoosh, there it all is. So, with that, this seat is for one who wakes. And that's you, and you, and you, and any and every one of you. Because we learn not by making people who have awoken special and saying it's them, but by recognizing, oh my gosh, if it's them, it has to be me. So please, the last projection that the ego stops projecting is enlightenment. We've all learned about how the ego projects guilt and shame and everything else, but it says, oh, they're responsible. The last thing it projects is, that's the enlightened one, not me. And the light is one. If you can recognize an enlightened being, it's only because you already know what one is. Just pull that projection back like a stinky fishing lure you threw out there, reel it back, and claim Christ for yourself. Because you are indeed that one, and there is only that one. Beautiful friends. What's that? Yes, I'll do the love offering. Love. There's a lot of love here tonight. There was nothing but love here tonight. If your mind told you to the contrary, it's easy to recognize that would have to have been an illusion. But if you'd like to make a love offering, on the other side of the fireplace is a basket. We would certainly appreciate it. Those of you watching online now on live stream or who will watch later, if you go to the One Who Wakes website, in the upper right-hand corner is a give button. You can click on that and make a PayPal credit card donation, or if you want to send something personally, you can certainly send an email to love@onewhowakes. When we do this work as Christ, we come with all that is. It would be impossible to do it otherwise. And that includes you as all that is. You're as much a part of this work as what appears to be sitting in these seats. You've called the reflection of Christ this close to yourself. This close. And you each can feel and know the authenticity. So if you've called it this close, look how tiny the gap remains. Go ahead and close it and accept that you are the Christ. And arise as one. So anyway, I come with all those beings, and I am eternally grateful to our Creator and to you, because none of that is separate. I'm grateful to Yeshua and all those beings who come. We love you with an absolutely infinite love and a perfect eternal peace. Blessings and good night.